Today, we are going to talk about produce safety for volunteers. We will cover health and hygiene and food safety standards for gleaning, harvesting, and packing on the farm. As a volunteer who either gleans or packs fresh produce, you are considered a worker under the Food Safety Modernization Act Produce Safety Rule. This rule establishes standards for the growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of fresh fruits and vegetables. Worker health and hygiene is an important part of that produce safety standard. Also, worker training for specific duties related to food safety is included in the standards. However, you can be an asset to food safety. We know that people can carry human pathogens such as Shigella, hepatitis A, norovirus, cyclospora, and others, as well as zoonotic pathogens like Salmonella, pathogenic E. coli, and Listeria monocytogenes. We know that people spread these human pathogens through the fecal-oral route. And it's important to know we workers are often the last to touch produce before it reaches the consumer. So good worker training significantly reduces these risks through proper hand washing, recognizing and reporting illness and injury, using good harvest practices, and using sanitary packing practices. We all want to deliver fresh, high-quality food to consumers, and food safety awareness helps us do just that. Remember, yours is sometimes the last hand to touch produce before the consumer receives it, and we know humans are cross-contamination machines. Even volunteers and visitors need to be aware of food safety practices when on the farm. Reminders and repeat training help farm workers to remember food safety practices until they become muscle memory. Remember to follow the food safety practices of the farm you are on and lead by example. So let's look at some of the specific routes of contamination. Hands, feces, clothing, footwear, tools and equipment, and through illness and injury. So how do we remediate these routes of contamination? For our hands, it is hand washing, knowing not only how, but also when. Proper use of toilet facilities reduces the risk of human feces contacting food. Know what clothing to wear for the job at hand, and how often that clothing needs to be changed. Also, think of safety when volunteering, and not wear clothing that can get caught on tools and equipment. Footwear may be specific for the job, so know when to use separate boots or when to clean and sanitize them. Tools and equipment will also be specific for the job. Know what to use and how to clean and sanitize them. Injury and illness on the job can also be a food safety risk, so follow the guidelines set forth in this presentation and follow the standards of the farm. Again, I mentioned the policies of the farm you are working at. Know them and follow them. They may include the following: where to eat and drink food and where not to, what to wear to work, where to use the restroom and where not to, when and how to wash hands, what to do if you're sick, what to do if you are injured while volunteering on the farm. Let's review proper hand washing. First, wet hands with warm water, apply soap, lather your hands for 20 seconds, then rinse thoroughly, then towel dry thoroughly with a disposable paper towel. Notice the graphic on the right. This illustrates the parts of the hand that are typically missed when washing your hands, so maybe think about those parts in particular. Besides how to wash hands, you need to know when. So, after using the toilet, before starting or returning to work, before and after eating and smoking, before putting on gloves, after touching animals or animal waste, and any other time hands may become contaminated. As a volunteer, check your steps to food safety, and remember, the goal is to keep farms clean. Always make a point of knowing the food safety protocols of the farm you are on. As workers, we need to think about what contamination we may bring to the farm. Clean clothes worn every day is a good first step. Often, the job will call for specific footgear. Make sure they are clean and sanitized from the day before. Also, be aware that playing or touching the animals you have at home could inadvertently be a source of pathogens you could bring to the farm. Also, please leave your pets at home. Generally, farms will have a glove policy, and changing gloves when soiled or torn, when switching to another task, and after 4 hours of continuous work are good basic standards. When using the toilet, make sure to remove and properly store tools and clothing, such as hairnets or aprons, before using the toilet facilities. We know that people can carry pathogens, and especially when they're sick. So don't handle produce and stay home if you are feeling ill. If you become sick while on the farm, go home. Signs of illness may include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, or jaundice. Injuries happen, so know where the first aid kits are. Report injuries to the farm management and follow protocols. In general, clean and bandage all wounds. If on the hand, a glove can serve as a double barrier. Make sure to clean and sanitize any items that may have been contaminated with body fluids, and discard any produce that may have been contaminated as well. Animals can be a food safety risk as well, and carry some human pathogens, such as E. coli 0157H7, Salmonella, and Listeria monocytogenes. We know that animals can spread human pathogens by leaving feces in the field. Through their feeding damage, their saliva can carry pathogens, and also spreading fecal material on their feet as they walk through the fields. Now, animals are impossible to completely eradicate. Birds and small animals can move undetected. And exclusion, such as fencing, is not foolproof. Remember, even urban and greenhouse operations will still have animals to control. Besides wild animals, we need to consider working animals, domestic animals such as dogs and cats, and petting zoos. As stated before, animals can be a source of cross-contamination through their feces and saliva. When working on the farm, avoid areas where animals are kept. Watch that you do not use tools or equipment that is designated for use with animals or manure. If your job includes animals, know when to wash hands, sanitize tools, or change clothing and/or boots. Everyone on the farm should be aware of nearby hand-washing sinks and signage to remind people to wash after visiting the animals. Neither dogs nor cats should be allowed in the packing house. There are ways to minimize cross-contamination during harvest. First, determine what is ready for harvest. Make sure packing bins are clean and ready to use, not broken or dirty. It will be helpful to know how to clean and sanitize tools and bins to ensure a clean harvest. When in the field, watch for areas that may be flagged off, and don't harvest within those areas. That probably indicates an area of animal intrusion. When you are harvesting in the field, never harvest any produce that has feces on it. Likewise, do not harvest produce that has been dropped to the ground. And finally, inspect the bins for any sign of physical or chemical contamination. When you're in the field, keep your eyes open for any signs of animal intrusion. Be on the lookout for feces, plants that may have been eaten, or tracks on the ground. Don't harvest damaged or dropped produce. The apples under this tree have fallen to the ground. When produce falls, the impact may cause small cracks in the skin. Those cracks may allow microbes to enter the flesh. However, crops normally grown in contact with the ground are safe to harvest. Before harvesting, make sure bins are clean and free from dirt and debris and are not cracked or damaged. Then keep them clean by keeping them up off of the ground. Some farms have a dedicated bin that goes on the ground with the harvest bin placed on top. That way there is a reduced chance that produce will ever touch the ground. In the packing house, if produce is accidentally dropped, it should be discarded. When packing from bins to smaller containers, make sure the receiving container is clean. If packing a combined container, make sure soil-contaminated produce, like potatoes, are kept separate from produce that is typically eaten raw, like lettuce, tomatoes, or peppers. Basic good housekeeping promotes food safety. Keep working areas clean. Make sure containers used for produce are never used for storing or carrying non-produce items. When packing, clean the work surface when changing crops. For instance, if you just packed carrots, clean the surface before working with the spinach. It is called taking a clean break. And when those boxes are full, make sure they are placed on a clean surface. When moving produce in and out of cold rooms, make sure bins are kept up off of the floor and are never placed where condensation from the condenser can drip on them. The vehicle used to transport produce from one destination to another must be clean and free of debris. Finally, to summarize, be aware of and follow the farm's food safety policies. Stay home if you're sick. Wear clean clothes and shoes to keep contamination off of the farm. Don't bring your pets with you. Only use the designated restrooms on the farm. Don't eat, drink, or smoke in work areas. Wash your hands frequently. If you use gloves, change as they become soiled. If you are injured, discard all produce that may have come in contact with your wound or blood. Key points for gleaning: never harvest drops. Be aware of fecal contamination and don't harvest in that area. Inspect harvest bins before using to ensure they are clean. Keep harvest baskets from touching the ground or any other dirty surface, and ensure the transport vehicle is clean. Key points for packing: keep work surfaces clean. Ensure all packaging is clean. Discard produce that is contaminated with fecal material. Discard produce that you drop on the ground. If packing multiple crops in one container, be aware of cross-contamination. Dirt on the potatoes may contaminate the tomatoes. And again, ensure transport vehicles are clean. These volunteers are following good food safety practices. Their harvest bin is held up off the ground by a second bin that is dedicated for ground contact. So thanks for listening, and have a great day on the farm.